Okay, guys, so we're back with some more Chaos Zero Nightmare. Now, there's been a ton of valid points that a lot of you guys have been making with the overall structure of the game, progression, the investment put in, time put in, etc., stamina. There's so many different points, right? But I really feel like there's also a lot of different things that are also being overlooked. And I really want to have, a moment to talk about some of those things. So there's 2 points I want to start out by making. Number one, as a content creator, I think it is really, really important to say this, okay? As a content creator and any other content creators that are watching, smaller ones, listen, guys, we cannot keep doing this because we do this from game to game where we push what we need as CCs onto the general player base. Now, what I mean by that is that there's definitely a big push for the ability to be able to develop and play as many units as you possibly can on your account. Okay. Now, this goes into my second point. This is a gacha game. And a lot of people don't like hearing that, but it's not about the fact that you're pulling for characters. Remember, this is a fact that I'm saying this. I've been doing this for almost a decade. Gacha itself, and when companies make gacha games, it is not just a gacha that's being put into the game, but it's an actual structure that is being developed. And this structure has entire videos that companies watch, by the way, that not only go over how they can make money with this said gacha, but also how they can implement systems to get you as the consumer to respond a certain way, right? So with that being the case, a lot of the things that we fundamentally see in gacha, whether the practices are like appealing or feel great, they're there because of the psychological response that developers get taught, basically, right? So that's the thing that kind of comes with the spectrum of creating a gacha. It's not so much about just making a gacha game where you have this gacha system and you just pull characters. It is an actual psychological interaction that you're having with players. Now, with that point being made, okay, I think it is really, really important to also talk about the fact that this is a single player experience. This game is meant to, at least from what I've noticed, meant to be something that you basically find the things that you want to invest in and you invest in those things. I think that the idea of building everything all at once, this is what also leads us to the other side of the spectrum, which is now I have nothing to do and I'm bored. We need more content. We need more of this. We need more of that, right? This always happens in every gacha game where if we are able to build things too quick, then we end up in this place where we are bored and don't really have much to do. But if we also aren't at a point where we're able to build things fast enough, you end up having people end up becoming bored, or there's even certain levels of burnout from trying to build up or invest in one thing. So I do agree that there does need to be a very, very specific medium met there so that players can be, like I say, somewhat satisfied on both sides. But I also think that it's never going to be a thing where everybody's satisfied, right? Because it ultimately is going to lead to one thing. And one thing that I've learned, at least in gacha games, is everybody's not satisfied ever. Like you're always going to have people that are upset or don't like something or things are too much. Now, I will say also, point in case, with the cost of everything, like right now, I have one level 60 character on my account, which, by the way, is a 1.1 million units cost. Definitely not intended for you to be doing that with every character right off rip in the first little over a week. I think that is a little bit unrealistic of an ask. And I also think that one thing that has kind of come with the game and just the territory of just going through uncharted territory basically is just the fact that we also now know better. So a lot of us that have been playing the game, we also have identified the areas where you can actually cut back in a lot of resources. Now, I'm not saying that I don't think they should give us more stamina. I'm not saying that they shouldn't up or bump up, the resource yield, etc. But the thing is that the point I'm making is that no matter what changes happen, there's still going to be a lot of people that aren't satisfied, right? Like it just always is going to be the case. So the best thing that you can do as a player is finding the areas where you can actually cut back in the usage of your resources. Because here's the thing, right? Take, for example, I'm building a character where I don't really care too much about, the neutral cards or unique cards. Then those may be nodes that you just don't invest in, which means that those are resources and crystals that can go into other nodes. Now, the other thing is too, is that with the gacha structure and system, there is always something to bottleneck or time gate you, right? And really for the extent of what it's worth, in order for you to really get these last two nodes, that would take you on average, if you're doing like say a character, that would take you about, if I'm not mistaken, 2 weeks, right? Because it's technically a week full of runs if we were to go for 3 runs of the Shards of Condemnation. I think the quantity drop does get better though the higher up you go, so it may only really take a week. It's just the fact that we're doing this at a much lower interval, and I don't know if there's anyone that's really doing it consistently or has had an opportunity to do it consistently on a full rotation on a week yet, but that's something that I also think would probably shift some. But nonetheless, let's just say a week to 2 weeks for you to be able to get those last two nodes. Before you know it, like let's say you have every character in the game, they're not going to be able to release enough characters for you to really have characters somewhat decently invested for you to be able to do things in the game. Now, this does kind of still highlight the fact that we do have a stamina issue. I'm not negating that at all, right? But with that being the case, I don't think stamina is not ever going to not be an issue, right? Unless they just say that, hey, we're just going to give players all the stamina, infinite refills or something like that. Stamina is always going to be a thing that you have to deal with. So you're going to have to better learn how to utilize and allocate where you're putting and how much of your resources you're putting into each character and what is really the demand for every character, because it is very different depending on what they need to do or even what you're trying to get them to do. Now, the other thing that kind of gets layered into this is memory fragments, right? Now, memory fragments, I think, is a whole nother grind, and it's a whole nother cesspool of RNG, because the thing that comes with this, just in terms of like what gacha games try to do for the long term, is it comes with trying to find the perfect stats, right? Like it just is what it is. There's anytime a game comes with substats and main stats and all that, like it is always going to be the grind to get the perfect rolls, to get the best thing, this, get that, right? And a lot of people, I will say, like, I think it's always split in my opinion. I feel like there's people that love these systems and there's people that just absolutely hate them. There's people that would just rather just be a generalized thing that, you know, if you get it, it's just the way it is and you just level it or invest into it. You're not really having to like cipher through or nitpick or really try to farm for specific substats. But then there's other people that love the dopamine and just the luck and the, hey, I got a god build because I was lucky, X thing dropped for me. It's a lot of different factors as to who would really like a system like that versus who wouldn't. My thing is that if they're going to keep a system like this, the craft system is definitely something that they're going to have to refine a little bit and really just emphasizing with the ability to get this currency, how you get this currency, etc., what you can actually do. I think that these types of things are really, really solid to have, which we have, right? Like we obviously have a craft system, but there's a lot of different things that they can do to make these types of things better. And even just in terms of the overall cost or the ability to get the resource so that you can craft like the specific substat or specific main stats and stuff like that. Like I think that those types of things, like as long as you continue to make those accessible to players, it'll make this system a little bit more manageable. But that's the thing. You don't want to hold out so much so that people just really aren't getting the builds, because in reality, a lot of times these types of games, they'll be like, hey, we'll give you one of those crafting pieces, like one update, and it's like, all right, dude, like people want to actually build their stuff, right? So granted, I get that there's going to be time put in to get things built, but you don't want it to be so much time, in fact, that even, you know, the casuals and certain things like that just fall off just because it's just so long, right? So I get that there's a grind that comes with the game, but you also just want to make sure that there's a perfect balance to it, which again, they have to identify that. It's not like this easy thing to do, but it just comes with the territory. So I feel like, again, like simplifying the system wouldn't hurt the game, just because of the fact that like when you're already looking at like levels of RNG, you got this system that's RNG, and then of course building your builds, which is also RNG. So I mean, as long as they don't continue to add more layers, this could be okay. But I just think that anytime we have a system like this, the more ways that you can add, or the more things that you can do to add value to, is just creating ways to kind of like make it easier or simplifying it over time so that players aren't going, 7-8 months without having a really decent piece for the character that they're trying to build, especially if we're not going to be able to really build everything all at once anyway. So that's kind of that. Now, the other thing is too, is that so far we haven't seen that there's been a requirement for manifest ego, or ego, sorry, ego. I'm thinking of freaking waffles right now, but this is definitely something that is going to start to show, I feel like, later down the line. It is a gacha game. So I'm expecting these things to definitely make a big difference in content clears and stuff like that. So we'll see how this kind of goes. I don't know if that's going to be like this thing that like just comes up like in the next update, or is it going to be, 6 months, a year from now, where we really start to see that like you got to have dupes or something like that. But of course, the general consensus with this is that within a gacha game, if you are going to have systems or things or content that comes out that is going to really start pushing more dupes, you got to make dupes more accessible. It just is what it is, especially going into 2026. People ain't having it, right? Like it just is what it is. Now, the other thing is too, and this is like a really valid point that somebody was making to me, is that when we actually look at the Chaos Zero system, right? Like the Zero system, I feel like this is where we really should be focusing in game, right? Because to be honest, I think that this is where all the fun is. I've had the most fun in the Zero system, the Chaos, whichever one you're doing, like starting from the beginning and then being able to build up things. Now, this is where it would kind of shift what they may need to do in terms of the availability or accessibility to certain levels of investment. Because if I'm going through this and I have to start from scratch every single time, you want to have the strongest base value you possibly can on your characters to be able to get through it. Now, there are a lot of different like arguments that can be made as far as how you push and how you go through this. I personally have only been using one team, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, Zox, that's not meta. But hey, listen, I don't care what you guys are talking about. This game is playable with whatever you basically want. I've been using Mika, Hugo, Ren. I mean, it is what it is. Like, it's not like the ultimate synergy team. Like, it's something I just enjoy playing. I like the reactions and the interactions that they have. So I just play this team, and I'm literally on difficulty 10. I don't have anything else built. So anybody that's telling you can't do that, it's cap, because I've done it, right? So that's basically that. But I will say, okay, even with all of that being said, I think that this is definitely more of the focal point for like the end game. Or should be, I should say. I know that the basin is a thing, and I don't mind the basin, but I also think that it does come with a loaded amount of potential issues, because what it's doing is it's actually stifling the types of comps that you can make. And that's the thing that I think that what the Zero system is allowing players to do, which is why players are having more fun in the Zero system than they are doing Basin. Because Basin is actually saying, hey, you need X team because of the fact that you have to do things in X speed, right? So it's like 12 turn count. But again, your team could be God tier and not die, but because they don't do it fast enough, then it doesn't really matter, right? Whereas, like, for example, in the Zero system, having a team that can't die, having a team that does a high amount of DPS, having a team that can heal a lot or shield a lot, like, those things are all good. Like, there's no such thing as a bad thing there. And I feel like the more that they can play into that specific thing, the better. And I mean, again, a simple fix for the basin is just simply removing the turn meter count, or the turn count, right? Because I feel like that, again, just kind of stifles your comps that are able to go in and do certain things. Now, one thing that we could maybe see more of in the future is really emphasizing attributes and stuff like that later down the line. I think that that type of content would be pretty cool. And really just, again, the fact that you have so many different builds accessible, I feel like that would be something that you could even have where people are taking the lower rarity characters and still being able to make god tier builds and getting through like a attribute exclusive tower mode or something like that, right? But these are all things that they can introduce when people have more development on their account. And usually once they start implementing stuff like that, they have forms of things that come in to make it easier for you to develop those other units on your account so that you can get through things. Now, of course, with that being said, the other point that I think that's really valid right now, and this is kind of why I kind of can see why they wouldn't necessarily go right away and just give us all accessibility to just build everything. the amount of gacha pools that we've gotten have been kind of insane. I'm not gonna lie, like just in terms of like the combatant rescue for standard pools, like mind you, I want you guys to know, like a lot of my pools like aren't like here in the rescue merit because I did some on the partner rescue. And I did about enough for me to get 2 partners out of that, by the way. So I just want to kind of point that, like, or paint that picture. So we've gotten an obscene amount of like pulls. We're still going to be getting more pulls. So I'm kind of interested in how this is going to affect the overall like cycle in the game because I'm not gonna lie, like, and granted, this is RNG, like I said, I've only spent, and I want to be very, very transparent on this. I've only spent $10 on my account so far. Okay. And that was just because I just bought the battle pass the other day. I think it was like a day ago. And dude, I already like, look at how many units I already have. Right now, the ability to build them, that's a whole nother thing. But I will say that I do think that fundamentally, this game is something that is meant to really just be about like you taking the time to work on the thing that you want to work on, just taking your time, right? Like enjoying it. I feel like that's even more so a reason why like there's a timer that pops up and say, hey, get off, buddy, go touch some grass. Like, I just think it's that. Like, it's a game that it's a single player experience. I can see if there was like a competitive nature to it. That would be one thing. But I also feel like I would be able to agree a lot more with other points being made if they fundamentally change the structure of the game. And a lot of people don't like to conform or like really understand that thought process. But gacha, like I said, isn't so much about just summoning. It is a actual structure with psychological interactions that happen in it. And this is why I think fundamentally a lot of other places in the world have so many restraints on how gachas can do certain things, because that's really for what it is a fact. That is what the structure of gacha is. So I would say personally, as a content creator, I really just want to do a better job at not pushing my wants and needs. I would say like, hey, at the end of the day, I'm open to them making things better as far as more drops, more stamina, etc. I'm not against any of that at all. But I also think it is a completely different thing to push the narrative that we need these things because I can't build every character right now to do my showcase video or to do like, hey, I'm gonna go make an alt account. like you see, the rewards are pretty insane. So I don't know. I just want you guys as the general consumers or just as regular players, man, not to feel this pressure that you got to have everything built up. In my opinion, I've been playing with the one thing that I've been enjoying this entire time. Do that, right? And then whenever you're ready, start preparing and working on that next thing. And then more so, what I'm going to try to do within the next few videos is really trying to crack down on some of the investment that's required for some of these units, because it's not really so like crazy, right? I think we love things like foresight, but it is going to take time and we're going to eventually get there, right? Things are going to make more sense. Tier lists may have a lot more validity, like I'll say a few months from now, because right now there's just too much that's not known. We haven't figured out every build. We haven't figured out every piece of like gear and artifact and what's best in slot and how do things properly scale. They're probably about to change a ton of stuff. So my whole thing is, guys, is just don't get caught up. A lot of changes are coming. They've already said that they're going to be changing a lot of things. So I can't even be like really mad. This isn't like a doom posty complain video. This is really just more so just bringing awareness to the fact that like we gotta chill a little bit. We gotta chill a little bit. There's obviously other drama and other things going on. But I think that, yeah, we've put the feedback out there. So now we just have to kind of wait and see, how they're going to go about changing this stuff. So yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think, how you're feeling. But that's going to be that with this one, guys. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next Chaos Zero Nightmare video.